Morning, everybody. Welcome to Monday morning quarterback. No, I'm just joking. This is Sales Chatter, the only logistics podcast where we're the mission of getting 10,000 reps to hit a million GP. I'm your co-host Ryan Mohammed. With me is my main man, President and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, Jeff Dickinson. How you doing this morning, brother?
Good, my man. Good. How was your weekend?
Ah, man, it was busy. It was busy. So, like I kind of said, like on Friday, my mom's birthday is actually today, but we had the celebrations on Saturday at our temple and stuff like that.
Very
So,
nice.
even getting to that was an amazing festivity. Got to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time. A lot of people came and supported my mom and showed her love and
That's
support.
awesome.
So, we're just kind of reeling from that. Even on so that was Saturday during the day, and then in the night for any WWE fans out there, Royal Rumble was online, and it was probably one of the best events I've ever seen. So I probably watched it maybe like three times from like Saturday to Sunday. So just really, and it's just been a good day. We're at the end of the month. I'm excited for what February is going to bring to us. What about you, my brother? And the NFL games, but we'll talk
Oh
about that
yeah,
in
it
a
was
bit too.
definitely the NFL games. It was great. Just a relaxing weekend. Went out to dinner, and yeah, I need those. I'm looking forward to February as well, man. I am so pumped up. It's unbelievable. And with that said, let's do this and get into the show. Let's go.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There we go. As we're back at it, and it's always kind of funny to see because before we came online, Jeff was like, as soon as we came online, Jeff's like, "What are we talking about today?" So this show is truly ad hoc. It's truly, hey, let's kind of go with the strategies and the themes. So the theme of the week is, we've kind of been Friday or sorry on Thursday. We talked about hey, you booking your first load. I believe Nerf was on the episode as well, and then just kind of getting through that, right? And you're doing all this prospecting. You got your first customer. You're doing your SOPs, doing your credit files. Well, today, Jeff, I see this a lot, and the reason why I want to talk about this today is that I feel like we can get a little bit of clarity on scheduling your day. And I know we've done episodes based on scheduling things like that, but I'm not interested in like about like skills to like level up. I'm more interested in actually paying attention to what actually happens during the day when you get too busy. Let's say you put off your prospecting calls because you got to do admin work or you got to check your email or check Slack. And I feel like as a professional, even myself, I'm a victim of it sometimes where I can get caught up in things that are not revenue activity. Things like, hey, let me go through my email. Let me analyze this so much more. Oh, I got to talk to accounting about invoicing and understanding that, hey, I've got like Jeb Blunt said when he was on with us, like you got to protect your golden hours because let's say you've got like 4 or 5 shippers on your belt right now. You're just getting into the process and you're going through there. You still got to make time, right? So, Jeff, I want to start with basically scheduling. What your thoughts are on how you kind of schedule your day and any kind of tips and tricks for things that are just time wasters and understanding what a time waster is.
Yeah, it's so funny. You mentioned golden hours. I look at golden years. So, yeah, with scheduling, it's highly critical. Like for me, we were just talking before the show how pumped up I am for February because I know what's coming down the pike, and then you're trying to be a little bit more orderly than last month. You thought you were, but now it's a new month, so now it's a new clean slate. Actually, after tomorrow, and you got to start planning, right? So automatically, I do 7 podcasts a week, right? So that's 28 podcasts a month, right? And I know the timing that I do it. Now I have my customers that I have to engage with. I've got projects on my backboard, as you can see, that are going to be launching. So I have to do the ramp up to them. I have to get everything situated and in place. Again, I don't do anything by hitting the toggle switch and here we are, off to the horizon, so to speaking. So there's a lot of things that I write down. I'm always got pieces. I got so many pads on my desk. It's crazy, and I kind of mark that down, and then I try to make time for the unexpected. I mean,
Mhm.
how many people think about the unexpected? You really can't schedule something you don't know that's going to happen, right?
Yep.
So it's that juggling thing. You think you have everything that's in order, and then all of a sudden you get this call, like I had this morning, and you start thinking about different things automatically. Your train of thought goes off into a different direction when it should be over here. And those are the type of things that happen in logistics. So planning is everything.
It's everything. And I want to, just so everyone's kind of watching, and good morning, everybody who's watching this morning with us, and then back on the replay. I want to stress that where the mindset that we're talking about today is like the cradle to the grave reps, because like if you're in a situation like myself where we're sales, it's two completely different beasts. And one thing when I was cradle to the grave, Jeff, was that it was those unexpected, right? Like, hey, you're gonna call from your shipper, you're gonna call from your carrier, you've already done your checking calls, and I'll break down how my days kind of used to look like when I was in cradle to the grave. I get in, and I don't know about any other companies that do this, but we used to print the rate confirmations that we've had, and then we literally put them like under stacks of each other. So I would come into the office and I probably got about 20 to 25 rate confirmations, and you just kind of like color coded by the date, right? So if it's for today, you're doing those carrier check calls, first thing you get in the morning, hey, where you're at, all those things, advise that to the customer. And then you're kind of like, okay, well, some quotes are going to start rolling in at, let's say 9 o'clock, 9:30 or so. And then those things kind of come up and you're kind of working on those. And then you blink and it's like it's lunchtime already, right? And it's like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do? And what am I gonna be prospecting? So I think for me, like the most customers I'm a firm believer, and I'd love to get your opinion, Jeff, is when it comes to a customer base, I'm not the type to have more than I would say 15 or 20 when I have my true core base. But if I'm fishing at the beginning and making those calls and things like that, I'm trying to go from there. But that's where you kind of be niche driven and kind of go from there. But I think like when it comes to what gets put off the most, right? When you're busy in your day, what is something that you think that gets put off, Jeff?
It's funny. You talk about your scheduling, and I'll just show these two things. You can't really see it. It says inbound shipments and outbound shipments. It's so funny. I'm orderly like that as well, and you're gonna laugh on this, and then people will be like, "What?" I put off cold calling. I really do, because I don't really cold call. So it's not an important thing to me because I have a different avenue in which I go and pursue compared to others. That's what kind of makes me a little bit different. But my pipeline is completely filled. So what I'm doing is I'm engaging in those type of activities and talking to my partners. Again, like I said, looking at my inbound, looking at my outbound, what's in the plate, then the unexpected again, and then just looking at everything. It's like our schedule: 9 to 9:30 Monday through Friday, and 9 to 10 on Wednesday, and then I have one on Thursday at 4:30, and another one at 1 o'clock on Friday. And now everything in between. It's that thing that you kind of put down on a piece of paper or whatever, or in your calendar, so that time is chiseled out. And then there's LinkedIn time, and there's Facebook time, and then there's TikTok time, and there's all this other kind of stuff that you're trying to be engaging, right? Because that's what we're in business to engage. So those are the type of things that I do, yeah.
From there. And for me, just coming back to to-do lists, and this is like scheduling like a high performer, I'm a big believer, and I think everybody should be doing a to-do list every single day. And my to-do lists look exactly the same, except that on the bottom of it I put notes, and I write 2 or 3 good things that happened on that day. And I started this weird thing: I'll keep my to-do list and I put them like in a jar, so like at the end of the year I'll pull them out, like let's say if I'm having a rough day or something like that. But I think when you're kind of, and we're given the mindset of somebody kind of getting into the industry first, it should be really sales focused. That's what I truly believe, at least. It's 100%, because you can't really go referral based if you don't really have customers, right? Like how you gonna get a referral from there? And actually David kind of breaks here. It's like, I love that. It's so true, because that's what happens. Sales focus at the beginning and then moves to operational as you build that customer base. Because, there's been so many times that I've been at lunch. I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to take an hour, go to McDonald's, grab some lunch. I haven't even hit the drive-through yet. Phone's blasting, right? And it's like, okay, I got to get back in the office. I got to go print this load confirmation. I got to go do these things, right? And I think, I love that you have those 2 folders, Jeff, because at the end of the day, you're staying organized. Nobody wants, if you have chaos around you, it's not going to work. It's just not feasible. So for some people it can work, because I used to write down notes in a binder, and nobody can understand my notes except for me. I'd be writing like parallel, all diagonal, all those things. And I'm like, hey, I can go back here and find it. But when it comes to, like you said, sales activity is really, really important. I think for people coming in brand new, for operational, right? Um, how, like you said, you have 7 podcasts in the week. Do you schedule like your customer calls at all, or you kind of like go on the fly just to kind of like check in with them, just kind of shoot the shit like how we kind of are right now?
Yeah, and the thing well, it's good for me, maybe not for others, but I do dedicated stuff. So all my stuff works like clockwork. I've got it set up that way so I can spend time on other things because it's that thing with transactional. Like when you're getting into the business and stuff, it's like, okay, do I want to be a transactional broker or do I want to be a dedicated one, right? And so you're going to pick and choose, what you're going to drink. The more complex, the better off for me. The less complex, not really that. So you look into that and you try to figure that out. And I don't have to make many customer calls. Like I have a customer that's been with me for 4 years, and I may have spoken to her maybe 20 times in those 4 years, maybe if less. And it's only when something comes up.
So wouldn't you, I don't know, just my person, and we're talking here. I'm just like, I would consider that transactional. No, I would say that relationship is transactional if you're only talking 5 times a year.
Oh no,
You elaborate?
well, yeah. If it's transactional, the way I look is like the one-offs and stuff where you're getting multiple customers.
So spot
and,
stuff.
right, and you're doing the spots, right? Mine isn't spots. It's all dedicated. So it works like clockwork. It's like I get a text when it's been picked up. I get a text when it gets delivered. If there's a problem, I get a call. I talk to them immediately. So it's like instantaneous. There's no delay whatsoever, no matter what I'm doing. Like I said to you before I got the show this morning, if something comes up, those are the type of relationships that I built, and they know about it in the beginning. I'm very engaging with my customers. If something new comes up, I'll bring them up to speed and let them know, hey, we're changing this. You're going to see a change there or whatever, whether it's a carrier change or vice versa. Oh, we're moving it from a Monday to a Thursday, those kind of things. But I like that. I like setting things up. And again, everybody likes to be on top of everything. Not to say that I don't, but I do it in a different way where it works like clockwork. If you have the right tools and the right mechanisms and you put the right procedures and work instructions in place, it should work like clockwork, enabling you to have more time to focus in on other things. Like my board in the back, I have many different projects, large projects that are coming down. So I can already forecast and budget out to February, March, and
April. Already scheduling. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That's a big scheduling. And we got Scott and Daman here, and I'd love to get their opinions. So for me, when I think of it, especially being brand new, because that's the mindset I take here, somebody completely brand new, you're not going to get those I think the odds of getting a dedicated lane from some certain customers like right away is like next to nil. Like for me, here's how I kind of see the steps, how it kind of goes in. I do all my prospecting. I get on, I do some, and this is me being brand new. I get an opportunity. It's obviously going to be spot. You find out, hey, is this a dedicated option? Yes or no? Most chances are it's going to be a spot option. And then you kind of build a relationship there. You might be leaning towards an RFP where you get to actually see all their lanes and what they kind of work with. And then you're like, you pick and choose, and then you kind of go from there. But with that being said, I've never won a dedicated lane unless it took me at least a year to get dedicated lanes for me. And the reason why that kind of happened is because, hey, we'll always kind of come in as a backup and wait for like the first guy to fail. Right. And then we're kind of like, okay, we're the secondary guys. We got the ball now, just as we're talking like football analogies. We get the ball and we get to run with it. But there's guys who like live in the spot market. And even for me, I love the spot market just because like it gives me that rush and that kind of things from there. And, that's where when like one thing I learned with Dan, and I met Dan, 3.5 years ago, was getting down to your client profile. So you can't do all these prospecting. You can't go after these customers. You can't even talk to your team until you have your client profile down. Because I rewatched our episode, I think it was on Friday or something like that, and my client profile, like, hey, I'm not working weekends. I've set up all my stuff that everything is picked up on a Thursday before 3:00 and everything's delivered by Friday, right? So my meat and potatoes of things are getting done is Monday to Friday, right? But you might be, like you said, you're working this morning, that lines might be down, product just in time, you do just in time. So that value of your value add right there is so important, Jeff. Like
Yeah.
that's the cool thing that all of us can decide on. Like there's no right path. But I think like when it comes to scheduling specifically, your client profile has to be there.
Oh,
Teflon 10 out of 10. You can make some changes and some elements to it as you kind of go along and get more experience, because that's what we're looking at when you're a brand new rep, right? You're trying to get experience in something you have no experience in. Imagine, like I think you were talking about that you want to partner up with new grads coming out, you know? These are the
yes.
things you're going to be teaching them, right? So to kind of talk about that. So I think it's just extremely important here.
Right. And you know what? When you talk to these new kids that are coming out, just graduated, they're in the exploratory part of their life. So am I. I'm exploring them and asking questions in order for them to open up, to have them think of the different things that they may not have been taught or thought of while they were in college, right? So a team of us, based upon what their likes are or dislikes, or we just try to open up the horizons, because there's so many different parts in the logistics and supply chain that you can get literally lost. And when you're in college and you do the case studies, they go from A to Z and all the different things in between. And sometimes it's not forced. I wouldn't say that it's forced, but they're on a schedule, right? That's what college is. They have, lesson 1, lesson 2, and you're pushed through everything like that. So you only gather there's certain kind of things that you need to learn in order to pass to graduate, right? But
Yeah.
now you're looking at the street, street smarts and being in the trenches and doing all that. So now you're adding that to the case studies and what they've learned over the years. We help direct them in there. And it's like almost like it's a pre-interview. Let's put it this way, right? We get them prepared so that when they do have their interview, they'll know the type of questions to ask, and they won't like kind of be shy or more introverted. They'll be more extroverted because we're preparing them for their time when it comes up. So, that's like the kind of legacy that we're trying to give these kids, women and men, and even, look, let's face it. There's some in that are already been in the field for maybe 5-10 years, and they want to change and they want to go into something different. So, that's what we're all about on that.
Yeah, it's awesome to kind of say that, because I love that you say that, because for me, I've always seen, and this is just my personal experience, I've seen like new grads come in and they're more willing to like make those calls, and like they have no fear essentially, as
No,
opposed to somebody who gets like analysis paralysis, like where they're just so busy, they got the phone, they're like, oh my God, I is this the right phone number? I'm going to get a gatekeeper. I find like somebody who comes in brand new to the industry and like they have nothing to lose. Those guys are usually more, you guys and girls are more successful, because okay, they told me to F off. Okay, let me get to the next call, rather than kind of holding that in. And I think, especially when you're a new person, I know that Damon and Scott, they would have this built into their schedules as well for their teams, is that, hey, if you're not so good at like emailing or like cold calls, put in some time to learn about it, to like upgrade your skills as you're kind of going along. Because for me, I wasn't given any kind of training. I didn't know anything about logistics. I was just given, hey, a lead list, make a call, tell them who we are, and send them an intro package. That was essentially was my training, right? And it worked. It worked, right? It got me from there. And I like what Scott here, because that's what I was kind of saying. Like the usual step process that I see with reps is that, for myself, is like they come in, they get a spot opportunity that gets that instant gratification, because like, oh my God, somebody actually replied, somebody actually wants to do it regardless, right? Like Scott used to do like pre-treated leather before, and like I know for me on my end, Jeff, I don't know if you're there, but like steel or like lumber, even though now I know I would never touch that stuff because there's no money in it for me, at least. But those, to see those, were like, oh my God, I got an email outside of like my boss or like HR, or like there's actual emails in my inbox, right? So
yeah.
you're able to kind of have that and kind of build out your client profile. Jeff, like you always gotta say, you don't make sales calls, but come back to a new guy here. What are some skills that you find, especially if you're going to train like a new sales rep? What are some skills that people do need to level up in?
Well, one thing, you can't be an introvert in this business, that's for sure. So, learning as much as you can. I mean, that's again going back to what we're offering for free with the new grads and stuff like this. It's kind of helping them out to get more of a direction on which way they want to go. What do they want to go? Do they want to go into the lumber business? Do they want to go into CPG? Do they want to go into chemicals?
Yeah, and as Jeff's internet's kind of coming here to kind of go into CPG and things like that, and it's really important to understand that as we bring on,
And if
you
they
know.
want to get into the text business and fix my computer,
So I got a
let me.
question for you, man. I gotta ask you, man. Like you always have these internet issues, man. How come you haven't called a
You
guy
know,
for it? Because
I did. I called them up, and they're supposed to come over. I got Optimum, and it's not really Optimum. I mean, look how many times it pops off of it. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I have these 4 screens. Not to get off the subject, but you asked, and I literally shut down and tried to just go into this. Maybe it's a draw or something. I don't know, but they are going to be coming over because it's a pain in the neck. I used the right word there.
yeah. Well, maybe we'll stream while the guys are there. They're telling us why. But no, just getting back into it, and I think
Yeah,
I kind of actually want to get off of DJ's point here was that
I
biggest
was
skill a
going to
new salesperson get is being a good listener. What is a good listener, Jeff? I'll ask you that.
they well, it's someone that's in tune uh, into whom they're speaking with, um, looking for specific words that are like puts the light bulb off in your head. Identifying something that they like within that conversation. A problem. Like it could be money, it could be transportation, it could be a lack of, or something like that. It's a term or something that's being said, which it's almost like a line going into, some raw meat. They just open up the door, you listen, you heard, now, penetrate that, get into their mind now and expose that. It takes time. It doesn't happen just like that. Now, I don't make a lot of calls, but the same thing happens when you're face to face and you're sitting down with this customer and you're engaging. You're listening, you're prompting, right? A question, and you're listening to their answer, and you're not interruptive or anything like that. And you're trying to pick out certain things within the conversation. That's a door opener. That's what
I
a
like
good listener is.
a good listener is, and this is my daily Toastmasters plug. But if you want to get better at listening and communicating, hit up your local Toastmasters club. But a part of my career, Jeff, I did quality. Like I would listen. So I worked in a call center. My boss would put me in charge of like listening to other sales reps calls, and we'd mark them this way: what went well, what didn't went well, and what can be improved on. And I know Dan mentions that for his like referral, but these were the
Yep.
three things that we monitor, and then we'd actually we'd bring them, and then we'd have conversation with them. And it was never like, oh my God, you're in trouble. It was just like, hey, how can we get improvement? Like, hey, maybe you could have pitched their tone was saying this, maybe you could have pitched a new cell phone to them, or did you resolve their issue or something like that. And I think when it comes to being a good listener, it's just not only for sales calls. You should be doing it with everybody. Don't listen just to react. I know with our show here, like I don't listen to react to what you say. It's like, okay, let me digest what Jeff has to say, and there's going to be some key points for me that are important to me that I'm gonna talk on, right? And vice versa. And I think even if you do like an online coaching, you can go to Skillshare, you can go to Udemy and things like that. You and I are we're not gonna take away the same content from the same piece, right? We're all gonna take individual things, and I think being a good listener, and then over time, you're gonna understand that because you have one call where prospect A says one thing. When you go to prospect B and they say the exact same thing, you'll know what to say, and we talk about storytelling being one of the best skills that they have. So let's kind of go into the next thing for like scheduling as well. Listener is being well. What are some How does somebody take something that they've listened to and actually put that into action?
They take notes. They write down after they've had their meeting or after their phone call, key things, the takeaways from the conversation. So they're going to hopefully they'll take that information on the engagement part and they'll put that into their CRM. What they talk, because let's face it, if you're like that type of person that's making 100 calls a week to prospecting, you're going to have to take notes on the ones that are the maybes. I might have a really good chance of getting them in-house. How are you going to know that? You're going to take good notes. So part of listening is being able to take, it's almost like shorthand, writing down those key elements and then entering the person's name, what you spoke about when you spoke, so forth and so on. So this way, when you do make that follow-up call, you can say, this is in regards to, or that email or whatever, and pull up those certain little things that you spoke about when you did. And then this kind of, go, oh, yeah, we did talk about that, So it's very, very important to take those key notes from every single phone call that you make.
Every single thing, even in life, like, anytime I have a conversation like with a vendor or something like that, I always take notes. And I don't know, for me, what works is after I have that prospecting call, I'll send a follow-up video within like 15 or 20 minutes of like, hey, this is what we discussed, looking forward, because you kind of want to get to that point. And I don't think we talked about this, but Jeff, when you talk to a prospect and they're like, hey, we're going to send you something over, to quote, and that doesn't kind of happen, how do you respond to that? How do you respond to, like, they were supposed to send you over some stuff and you didn't get anything from them?
I make a phone call. I mean, I'm not making any. I'm not going to send out an email. That's like a chump way of doing things. If something's said on the phone and it's a promise and you don't receive it, I reflect. I'm going to say, as an example, hey Jeff, going to be sending over this quote for 10 lanes. We're going to start in March. Okay. All of a sudden a week goes by, you're not there. Well, guess what? There's a lot of things you have to do to ramp up in order to get the right carriers in place and so forth and so on. So you're going to make that call and say, hey Jim, listen, last week we spoke about the possibilities of you sending me a quote. You said you were going to send me. I didn't get it. I know there's a timeline that's involved in this. If you really want me to go and do this, please send it over to me. Send me over the contract rates or whatever. I'll sign off on it, blah, 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 whatever it may be. Make those phone calls. Don't do it in email. Follow up, especially if it's promised to you.
Exactly, if it's promised to you too. And getting back into scheduling, because I think it's really important not to scare people away. And this is where I find like LinkedIn is not necessarily the good source of this, because you always kind of see the good stuff, kind of like on LinkedIn, or like the hustle culture and things like that. When you're kind of like new and let's say you're cradle to the grave, how important is being available 24/7?
Well, let's put it this way. If you're going to be a 24/7 guy and you start off as a 24/7 guy, that's the rest of your life. I mean, because you're embedding that. You're telling people you are available. So don't overpromise and under-deliver when you're talking to a prospect. If you have a team, okay, Ryan is on from 7 to 4. I got Jim from 4 to 12, and I got Mary from 12 to 7. Let them know that right off the bat. Don't say that you're the key person that there's always going to be communicating. And of course, I mean, I've worked in those situations where we rotated, and it wasn't always Mary taking the graveyard shift, because we got everybody into that so they'd have cross training and understand certain things that happen throughout the whole day, the 24 hours of the day, right? So, I mean, it is important for a company, for an individual. If you're by yourself and you're an entrepreneur and that's the way that you want, I mean, you can say I'm available 24/7. You can give me a call. I'll answer it, but it really all depends on that individual.
Yeah, exactly.
If a company says, I need you 24/7 and you sign up for it, well, you better do it,
Yeah, don't and that's the one thing we always kind of talk about, get the client profile. Make sure you mentioned it last week about like make sure you interview the company that you're going towards and know the expectations there, because when I worked in an office, we kind of fed off each other. We were in that bullpen, all the sales reps together. Okay, I'm crushing a call, they're crushing a call, and you kind of get that camaraderie kind of going too. But that 24/7 lifestyle is just, if you're gonna be that guy or gal, be that person, right? And set the expectations from the beginning. But if you're not, set the expectations regardless, right? Because things are gonna happen. I feel like it's tradition in logistics. Once you get your first couple loads, that some of them are gonna go completely wrong. Knock on wood. But like I've had my first set of shipments just go completely wrong, right? And how you kind of bounce back from that, because I think it's important. I like what you said about, hey, leave your communication for cell phone, like start calling them. If anything kind of goes wrong, just have that onus, because nobody wants to read from an email, but it might work for some people, right? It just, customers might say, hey, only reach me by email. Yeah, it's all subjective, right? That's what we kind of talk about. Last question here as we kind of wrap up the show, because we're talking about scheduling like a high performer. What is something that you do now in your scheduled days, well, not completely 100% scheduled days, that you wish that you did in your first year when you made that $9,000 profit?
just be on, I wouldn't say on top of what I'm doing, but creating those partnerships and stuff. I mean, I've always been the scheduler. I mean, that's just me. I'm anal retentive. Let's put it this way. I really am. I've always done my career that the devil's in the details, and the more details that you have, the overall results will be there if you know how to read the data and create all these things. So yeah, I mean, it's that's. I wish I did more partnerships in the beginning. I mean, I can't go into it in great detail, but I messed up, man, big time. I'm not a sales guy. I say it all the time, right? And in the beginning, you know, what you said earlier about you go for the spots and stuff like that. I'm different because I came from dedicated, so I have no spots are useless to me. They mean nothing to me because I want the big hitters. You know, why do I want to waste my time on spots? That's all part of scheduling. If I want the big hitters, I'm going after that.
We always had a joke, and this is a joke, take it for what it's worth, right? But we always had a joke in our first office where, hey, dedicated pays the bills, but spot gets you the boat. So I'll just leave that with you.
All depends on your negotiations and what you're really looking at. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, like, you know, like if
that's not true, then I'd still be making $9,000, and I'm already up over 400% at the beginning of this month compared to last year. So I must be doing something right.
Yeah, well, we still got to remember we're talking for new reps for them to kind of benefit, not necessarily what we're kind of doing.
You can do it. I'm just saying you can do it. You know.
Yeah, of course, and you know, like that's the opposite for me. I'm not really, and that's what we kind of talk about. So there's definitely different avenues, and I think like with Scott and Daman here being here is that you know you get the short wins, and that's what you really want because we talked on Thursday about getting your first load. That was like you said, you have your first load like actually like up there, right? And you look at that.
I have it right in front of me. And that was a spot, and it just happened to come across. I did nothing special. I didn't even make a call. I talked to a friend, and a friend led me to somebody, and then I went and saw them. And next thing you know, they've been on board for 3 years. You know, so I mean, it's like. That means everything. That started my business. So why wouldn't I put it on the wall? You know, I look at it every single day and where I was and where I am today. It's those certain little things that, you know, represent who you are when you started and who you are now, you know? So, I mean, you know, if you have that passion, you're going to really rely on those small little things because they mean so much. They do, you know, may not mean that much in the beginning, but as you transition and you start moving and you're being more successful and things will start coming, that's very important.
Yeah, kind of keeps you grounded as well, and like keeping that positivity because like you know like there's certain days like you'll have like you know you start off your day with something really really bad and you're like oh man like you know and it's just that mindset. But we'll get into that in the episode, and I like that you brought that up, like, especially with the referral base because tomorrow we're actually going to get into customer retention and referrals. So that's going to be something that is going to be amazing. So with that being said, any final thoughts for today, Jeff, as we tell everybody to go kill it today?
No, just get used to creating a schedule. It's always good. I mean, managers, leaders, subordinates, you know, if they all are on the same page, no pun intended, but creating those notes and creating schedules for your week and what you want to do and those individual goals and objectives, it'll help you out a lot. It will definitely help you out a lot.
Exactly. And you know, I'm a big believer. My final thought is like small actions reaps big rewards. So, you know, you make those schedules and stick to it, you know, and stay that motivating because you can only watch a motivational video, David Goggins videos for 10 minutes, but it's what are you going to do after that, right? Are you going to go make those 20 calls? So go from there. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. Scott, DJ, Daman, always a pleasure to talk to you, gents. And I hope you guys are having an amazing Monday as we're coming to month end. I want to thank everybody else who are catching this on the replay at 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern time. Catch us at LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And then join us for tomorrow. Like I said, we're continuing the conversation. We're going to be talking about client retention, and as well as maybe we'll get into referrals as well. But with that being said, everybody have an amazing day, crush your week, and see you guys tomorrow.
Have a great day. Thanks.